Okay, I'm at 214 West Neely Street, and this is again still in Oak Cliff, and this is a very famous residence. This was the place that allegedly Lee Harvey Oswald, well, he did live here, he and his wife Marina, where the alleged backyard photos were taken. So I'm going to back up here. Of course, the backyard photos, if you're familiar, you know that is a big piece of the evidence that convicted Oswald in the eyes of the American people. He was photographed holding the Mannlicher Carcano in his right arm. He had, or maybe it was his left, he had holstered at his hip the .38 Special, and in his right hand he had communist literature. And this was one of the most famous Time Life covers that Time Life ever had. And of course these photos were allegedly taken in the backyard here. That's why they call them backyard photos. And so all you gotta do is Google Lee Harvey Oswald backyard photos, and you'll see what I'm showing you here, what you're looking at. I'm gonna get into this guy's yard. Looks like the house is abandoned, so I don't know, we'll see. This is the backyard, and there is a story with these backyard photographs. And there's a story that I can't believe as I drive over here how close all these places are. If you remember, I had mentioned in an earlier video last week when I was in Dealey Plaza an address, 605 Elsbeth, and how that is the clue that we knew that the military ceded Harvey Lee Oswald's name to Dallas police 14 minutes after the assassination because they had an old address and a misapplied name. And so Lieutenant Jack Revel, whose job it was to put together this suspect list, got from the ONI officer who got from the Fort Sam Houston intelligence officer for the Army this name that cross-referenced with the alias Alec Heidel. But unfortunately for them, they had the name misapplied, Harvey Lee Oswald. That was not the name that Texas School Book Depository's personnel records had. They had the correct name, Lee Harvey Oswald. So that was a clue where they got the name. And then they had this old address, 605 Elsbeth. So before I tell you the story of this backyard photo, I want to walk around and show you where 605 Elsbeth is, because it's right around the corner here. So here I am walking down the street. This is the front of 214 West Neely. So I'm walking down the street, and this is Elsbeth at this intersection here. So I do know that this particular structure, 605, has been demolished. So it's why I didn't have it on my list. There's nothing to see. But I want to show you either what's in its place or where it was and how far a walk it is right around the corner. All of this is happening just within walking distance. So this is 701. So it would actually be this direction, okay? It's almost the backyard of the 214 West Neely address. So here we go. I'm making a right turn here. I'm looking for 605 Elsbeth. That was the address that the military ceded into. That's 629 right there. So I'm betting it's this empty lot right here. I know they tore it down. There was a big outcry about it from Dallas. They said, you're tearing down a chunk of history. Actually, it's not, because this is 621. So it'd be down here a little ways. Looks like they've built an apartment complex in its place here. Or a hotel of some sort. Yep. So this right here This is a new structure, relatively, in its place. Well, I may be wrong on that. I think it's this parking lot. Yep, that's what it is. This used to be 605 Elsbeth. This is the misapplied, or this is the wrong address that military intelligence gave Lieutenant Jack Revel and Dallas Police, and you can see it's just a parking lot now. But if I were to walk straight back there in that corner of that fence right there, if there was a gate there, I could walk through that gate and literally be in the backyard of 214 West Neely. It's literally catty corner. So this is where Oswald lived a year before the assassination, when military intelligence had his address, and they just didn't update it. And of course they had the wrong name. So I'm going to go back to 214 West Neely, and while I'm walking, I'm going to tell you the story of the backyard photo. It looked pretty convincing. It was clearly his face, and the search of where his wife was living on 2515 West, or 2515 West 5th Street in Fort Worth, revealed a lot of paperwork and order forms for a Mannlicher Carcano and a .38 revolver, and the handwriting on the order forms was verified as that of Oswald. So they knew he ordered the guns. Whether he was told to do it or whether he did it on his own is irrelevant. They knew he did it. The handwriting on the receipts of purchases when he went to pick them up at the post office. He didn't have a mailbox, so he had a P.O. box. So when he went to sign the receipts of purchase, they were also verified to be Oswald's handwriting. And then the name that he used, A. Heidel, on the order forms, the receipts, and the P.O. box was confirmed to be his alias when he was arrested. And he had an Alec Heidel ID in his wallet. All right, so it looks pretty clear, like it's almost open and shut, right? And then you have this backyard photo, which was taken and confirmed originally by Marina. Later she changed her mind on it, but and he's posing with the gun, the Mannlicher Carcano, and the .38 revolver, which clearly he ordered and clearly he picked up at the post office and received. Now he's posing with them at this on 214 West Neely. And boy, this place is, I don't know if anyone's living here. It doesn't look like it. Looks pretty abandoned to me. And I can't believe how close to history I am here, because I've seen this photo a million times. And he's posing right there in front of right by that stairwell and that like half wall. He's kind of posing there. At least the photo makes it appear like he's posing there. And so this is the building. Odd. So is it an open and shut case? Well, when Oswald was presented with this photo immediately, he said, that's a fake. And he said, you give me a chance at trial, I'll prove it, it's a fake. And of course, Oswald had all kinds of photographic experience. He was trained in photography. It was part of his job with the military. And he got top secret security clearances to do that job. Then when he got out of the military, in '63, he worked at Jaggers Childs Stovall, which is a firm that required top secret security clearances to do classified photos, aerial reconnaissance photos for the U.S. Army. And so he had all kinds of experience with working with photography. And he identified it immediately as a fake. Well, he wasn't the only one that had experience with photography in the military that had experience with this backyard photo. We're back to Roscoe White again. When on the day of the assassination, one of the jobs that he had when he was hired in September to be part of the Dallas Police Department was to be a photography expert because of his experience in the military. And on that, and he had, of course, he had top secret security clearances and things of that nature, just like Oswald did. He had been assigned to the Identification Bureau of the Dallas Police Department on that day. And then, of course, after he died in 71, his son and daughter found all this. They found a foot locker, they found a safe deposit box, they found a canister hidden in their grandparents' attic with all this information about the JFK assassination. They found a confession, they found a scrapbook with all kinds of pictures and confessions, and all of a sudden they start to realize their daddy was involved in the JFK assassination. And one of the things they found was the one and only original Lee Harvey Oswald backyard photo. It was there was only one backyard photo made from the original negative. The original negative disappeared after the assassination. Nobody knew where it went. Meaning all the rest of the photos that we've seen subsequent were not made from the original negative. Well, guess who had the original negative? The original negative in the original backyard photo was in Roscoe White's footlocker, included with his confession and his diary that no one knew existed until 71 after his death. How in the world did he get his hands on that? Of course, we know Roscoe White was the shooter behind the picket fence on the grassy knoll. How did he get his? He was a photography expert. We know that. How did he get his hands on this negative in this photo? Everything he left behind after he died, this confession, the scrapbook, the ONI, everything was detailing exactly how the assassination had gone down and identifying himself as Mandarin, the shooter behind the picket fence on the grassy knoll. In other words, it was all incriminating. There wasn't any of the evidence that was left behind that pointed to anybody else. It was like a confession. He was unburdening his soul, to use a Kamala Harris term, after his death. And it was all incriminating. And it is widely believed that White's inclusion of this negative in this photo is evidence that the forged photograph was just one part of the cover story prepared in advance, in this case by him, which is why he is including it, and it's how he got his hands on it, because he did it, to implicate Oswald beforehand. If you look at Roscoe White's body type and build, it's very similar, 5'10"-ish, to Lee Harvey Oswald. And of course, Oswald identified the photo as being a forgery because he said the face is his, but the body's not. And he said that the head's been superimposed on the body. And so it makes it look like Roscoe White posed in the backyard photo pose with the guns, etc. And then they superimposed Lee Harvey Oswald's head onto Roscoe White's body. That's essentially what Lee Harvey Oswald said. And that's what, by leaving all this evidence behind, that's sort of what Roscoe White's implying. He said, well, that's going out on a limb. Well, during the House Select Committee investigation in the late 70s, a Major John Picard, who was a former commander of the photographic department of the Canadian Defense Department, took a look at the backyard photo for the House Select Committee and declared them to be fakes. Retired Detective Superintendent Malcolm Thompson, a past president of the Institute of Incorporated Photographers in England, analyzed the pictures. He also declared them to be fakes. Some of the indications, only an expert like those two would catch, but some of the indications of fraud are so obvious. Like the shadow of Oswald's nose falls in one direction while the shadow of his body falls in another direction, right? The shadow should be consistent. Also, the shadow under Oswald's nose remains the same in all three photos, even when his head is tilted. It should have changed with the tilt, right? Further doubt is cast on the backyard photos by the ominous fact that a Dallas commercial photographer who examined and processed assassination-related photographs for Dallas police and the FBI said he saw an FBI agent with a color transparency of one of the backyard pictures on November 22, which was the day before the police said they found the photographs. So somebody in Dallas police already had this photo before they said they even found it. Like, they had it and they planted it, right? The photographer further stated that one of the backyard photos he processed showed no figure in the picture. And his wife corroborated that story because she helped him process the film on November 22. And so it's like they processed a photo without a figure in it, and then that figure was inserted into it after the fact. If you watch the movie JFK, Oliver Stone did a really good job sort of telling that story without actually saying it. It's sort of just implied as the movie goes along, and someone is cutting and pasting and putting the photo together in a dark room with all the chemicals. Somebody who with some extra expertise knows what they're doing. But there's crop marks, and there's other evidences that show that this photo was faked, it was forged. Oswald's wife, Marina, is the one who supposedly took the photos. However, in a recently recorded interview, she said of the backyard photos, quote, "These are not the pictures that I took." In 1992, an important development occurred when Dallas authorities released previously suppressed files on the JFK assassination. Among these files are several photos of Oswald, two of which are backyard pictures that show clear signs of tampering. On February 9th, 1992, the Houston Post reported, quote, "One photo of Oswald's backyard in the Oak Cliff section of Dallas," right here, on Neely Street. "One photo of Oswald's backyard in the Oak Cliff section of Dallas shows clear evidence of darkroom manipulation." The Post further stated that the manipulation involved attempts to frame Oswald by inserting him into the background of the picture. The Post provided a description of the print. "In the manipulated print and police files, Oswald does not appear. Instead, there is a white silhouette of a human figure holding an apparent rifle and newspapers. The silhouette appears to be an example of matting, a darkroom technique that can serve as an intermediate step in the combining of photographic images." I could go on and on and on with regard to that. That's a really significant piece of evidence. But picture, it's from the time Oswald saw it, who was a photography expert, he clearly knew it was a fake. But you would expect him to say that, right? But then you get that confession, and you get all that evidence in Roscoe White's Foot Locker and other places, and he has this photographic expert who got the same military training as Oswald, has the only negative and the original photograph in his possessions. How did he get that? And then, unless he was involved in the forging of that photo. And of course, it would stand to reason, or it would follow, that he would be perfect for that job because he has the same body type, exact same body type. So this is the 214 West Neely address, and just from this other angle, walk down here, we're in this back alley, and that parking lot, which used to be 605 Elsbeth, is right down here at the corner of this fence row, we're now behind the apartment complex. But if you just keep walking, you'll end up right here at the corner of that parking lot, which is, again, that address that turned out to be wrong, a year old, that the military intelligence seeded into the narrative, or into the investigation, to point the finger exclusively at Lee Harvey Oswald. And here it is. So I'm going to hold the camera up. You can see, there it is. That's how close 605 Elsbeth. We were just on the other side of that, over there by that stop sign, and now we're just looking at it from the opposite side. And it is all connected by this alleyway to the back of 214 West Neely Street, and the alleged site of the backyard photo, which all indications are it was fake, it was forged. Okay, thank you.